Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host for a live podcast, How to Fight CPS and Hang On to Your Children. I'm broadcasting on YouTube using the StreamYard application. You found me on Facebook, How to Fight CPS, Bob Pace. And I use the term CPS to mean the Child Protection System, which is a branch of social services that's supposed to help our children from neglect and abuse and to assist family in needs of food, housing, clothing, educational, medical, and work. And it's also, if the family's broken apart, if it's necessary for CPS to break it apart, it's supposed to do family unification because the best parents has been proven are the biological parents. The biological parents are the best parents. Now, there's several ways to interact with this podcast. Now, I'm on every day, Monday through Sunday, twice a day. One at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time, then at 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time. And the only day that there's exception to that is on Sunday. I come on at 8 o'clock, so I attend church with my family. And so I come on 2 hours early on Sunday at 8 o'clock. Other than that, I'm pretty much the same schedule. I will let you know if it's a different schedule. This is football season, and so I am I'm always rooting my son on football, and I enjoy football. And his Friday night lights is on Friday, but his game is Sunday in Hawaii, and um, it's not interfering with my evening podcast at 7 because the game will come on at 9:30 because they're 3 hours behind. So they'll be at 6:30 Hawaiian time. So 9:30 our time is when the game will come on. Anyway, that's one of my interests is football. I enjoy it at all levels, college and at the pro level. I have played football, and it's been something that I've seen. I've seen every Super Bowl there has ever been. So that's one of my interests. My other interest is to help you guys because you're involved with the child protection system. Now, every state will be different. Like in Arizona, it's called the Department of Children's Services. California, it's the um, Children Protection Services. I just call it CPS, meaning Children Protection System. So it includes all the different names and all the different counties and states and so forth. Now, I'm broadcasting from Surf City, USA, about a mile up from the beach. This morning I'm outside. In the evening I'm usually at home in my studio. But this morning I'm outside. We have an overcast, cloudy morning. It's also cool, which is nice because I know it's been hot lately. And I know all of you are in different parts of the country that are experiencing different temperatures and heats and stuff. Some are getting rain and so forth. So I hope you all stay nice and dry. And to react with this podcast, there's three ways you can do so. One is just by being in the room is all you have to do and listening and taking notes. There's emojis that you can um, use, such as thumbs up, smiley face, a heart. Also, please click below if you want to subscribe to my podcast. Also, if you want notified when I'm on, hit the notification button. Now, the second way of interacting with this live podcast is that you may have a question or comment you like to make. Now, it should be about CPS because that's what we're here for. I put it up on the screen. Hopefully, you can read that. So, when typing in a comment or a question, please have it relate to CPS. Also, please show me your name. Now, you may think, well, I have a name, my Facebook name or my YouTube name. That name is cool. You may have a name, but some of you have things like psychedelic butterflies or jumping hippopotamus or the lion sleeps tonight. You're trying to convey a message with your platform. All I ask is that you show your first name, like Mary, Sue, Bonnie, Peggy, Bill, Bob, those kind of names. And that way, when you start off with your question, comments, start off with your name. Then list the city. And if you don't want to give the city, please give the county and your state. Now, that helps me sort of see how everything is set out there in the United States because I've been doing this since October, and I've talked to over 500 people. I've talked to all the states, all the United States there, including Washington, D.C. Now, if you're from a country, I welcome you because I've had 13 countries text in comments about their CPS. So CPS is a worldwide problem. And it's nice to hear cultures that are different. Some of the places have been Bangladesh, New Delhi, India. I've had someone from the Middle East, but I couldn't quite make out the country. It was in Arabic. And then I've had Africa, the continent of Africa. I've had several countries there. I've had Liberia on the west coast, on the north. And then I've had the province on the west coast of South Africa on the south. Then I have Rwanda, which is near Lake Victoria in Central East Africa. Then Mozambique, which is down from Somalia, above South Africa, across the island of Madagascar. Then I went up to Europe, and I've had comments from Scotland, Wales, and England, part of the UK. And then I've had also Denmark and Sweden. Then across the pond, I've had North America, where I have Canada and all the provinces, not all of them, but 3 or 4 of them, like Alberta, British Columbia, and Vancouver, West Coast and East Coast, and so forth. As I mentioned, I've talked to all 50 states, including Washington, D.C. Um, I've also talked to way remote places, like the Rosebud Reservation next to the Pine Reservation in South Dakota, the Dakota Sioux tribe. Also, the Cherokees tribe of Oklahoma used to live in Florida. And then other Indian tribes. These are the Native American Indians of the United States. Now, in Canada, they're called the First Nation. The Indians in Canada are called the First Nation people. And they too have contacted me. So I've had quite a diversity of people. Also, I've had social workers contact me and talk. I had one social worker from Maryland named Carol that talked for 40 minutes and told me that she was a clinical psychiatrist and that she had about 6 months of training in Maryland about CPS. So um, it was her position that she does a quite good job and nothing's wrong. I'm not saying everything's wrong with CPS, but I said that there's enough cases to make me question. Because it seems like everybody I talk to, all 500 or more people, yeah, the number one gripe about CPS, they're not fair, they're not transparent, they lie, they take revenge, and they take your children when they're not in imminent danger. Now, as I said, to interact with this podcast is to first be in the room. Now, second is you can type in your comments or questions. Make sure you're complete with your case. I would like to know what your family structure is like. Are you husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, lovers, maybe your partnership? Um, are the same children the mothers and fathers of the children? or the different fathers and mothers of the children. Also, you're a single parent where only one of you um, uh, is taking care of the family. And then like to know your children, the ages, the sexes, and then how were your children taken from you? That's really important because there's different ways that children are taken. And then what were the charges besides neglect and abuse? Be a little bit more detail about your allegations. And then where your case is at the moment, where your case is. So that completes the second way of interacting with this podcast. The third way is to schedule to be a guest on our show. And I have a show producer. Her name is Grace. She works very hard behind the scenes. I thank her for what she does. Now, you can email Grace, and she's located at grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's grace at vincentwdavis.com. And you tell her what one of my 14 shows you're going to be on. My morning show on Sunday, or my Saturday evening show, my Wednesday morning show, my Tuesday evening show. You pick one of the 14 shows, and she takes care of the rest. Now, being a guest is useful because you get to talk about your case, and I can help you, and other people can help you too. Also, um, furthermore, um, you can help other people. That's one thing this podcast is about: is helping others. Helping others is so important. Now, I have my regulars that attend the room, and one of them is Faye, who's from Richmond, Kentucky, and she had some great news. After trying for 27 years, she finally got the ombudsman. There's a new organization in Kentucky that will listen to her and open her case. Her daughter was wrongfully taken from her. And it's been a hard case for her because she has a son, a special needs son, who she's trying to formally um, be his caretaker, adopt him. And when you reach the age of 18, uh, to take over a person over that age, you have to pretty much become a guardian of that person. Become a guardian of that person. A second person that is Natalie from West Hollywood, California. And she's been a long time supporter of the show, been on, and she lost two kids of hers. So I have Kentucky, West Hollywood, as usual, on all the time. A third one is my co-host I used to have. Um, yeah, Danielle is from Georgia, and she has a son that she's trying to get custodian of that turned 18 while he's in CPS's hands. And so um, she is a really good mother and wants to help us all there. So hopefully, hopefully I can reach Faye and Natalie and Danielle. That'd be nice. Now, this third way of interacting with the room, of course, is to be a guest. I can have up to 9 people. 9 people um, on my podcast. I have 10, the max. I've had 4, but I'm open to 9. And when you email her, you just say the morning or the evening and what day of the week, and she will contact you with a link to SteamYard. Don't lose that link because if you get booted out, you can use that link again to get back in. It's a workable link after you use it. She'll tell you what you can do and cannot do on the podcast, such as no eating or smoking on the podcast, even chewing candy or eating candy or nuts or ice, things like that. Um, Also, she'll tell you that we don't use names of children, judges, or social workers, and we respect their privacy. The last way to interact with this podcast is to call into my phone number. Now, my phone number makes me live, and I have an office number of 626-698-0990. That's direct line to my office number, and you can call and talk to me, but that's during the show hours. It's during the show hours. You call me before the show hours or after the show hours. It will take a message. You can leave a message, but I will text back with you with the show times. With the show times. So just call in to 626-698-0990, and that was direct line. I use Vonage. They use Vonage as my phone application, and please do call in. I like so much for to hear you talk about your case or how we can help you. You'll be on speakerphone, so it's important you speak up. Also, when you're a guest, it's important that you have a good lighting and that you try to use your computer with internet, strong internet. Phones are okay, but try to have all the background noise reduced in a strong phone so we can hear you. And that also goes for the phone here because I'll put you on speakerphone so you guys speak up clearly. So those are the four ways to interact with my podcast. With my podcast. Now there's another number on my screen, and that's the number of the office. This office is run and owned by Vincent W. Davis. He's a dependency lawyer, good one at that. Plus, he has many other lawyers that can help with all your legal needs. And that number is 888-888-6582. And when you call him, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And you can talk to Mr. Davis and retain him, talk about his fees and so forth. And um, if you have questions about all the other legal needs, that's the number. He'd love to talk to you and so forth. So that's the office number for contacting Mr. Davis, 888-888-6582. Now, I do have a special going on right now with Mr. Davis. If you notice the bottom of my screen, I got a ticket running. And this is actually my rule number one. If you like to talk to Mr. Davis for 30 minutes, he'll talk to you for 30 minutes on a Zoom meeting for $60. And it's well worth you talk to him because he has over 35 years of being a dependency lawyer and also fighting um, uh, CPS. He has gotten the children back. As many years. He's a trial attorney, and he knows. He's actually done lawsuits against CPS and won millions of dollars, both federal court and state court. So he's well knowledgeable. He'll go anywhere. He'll go Northern California. He'll go all the 50 states. He has a case in Northern California, several cases in the L area, and then he's got a case in Oklahoma. And he, as I say, will go anywhere. The only difference between doing a case in California or a case in other states is going to be the per diem. He has added expense of his accommodations, ground transportation, air transportation, and food. So that's all tacked in to the cost of hiring him. But I really like you to do the consultation because he will talk to you. You just go to that website that's down at the bottom of my screen. Let me see if I can pull it up so you guys can see it better. To book a discounted Zoom consultation with attorney Vincent Davis for up to 30 minutes. Care of Bob Pace, you will go to this website, https://candidly, CALENDLY.com /apps, APPTS, BWD /Bob Pace, BOBPACE. And um, he will give you a discounted Zoom consultation there for 30 minutes for $60. 30 minutes for $60. And you probably ask me why did I talk about having an attorney or talk to an attorney. And some of you may say I got a court-appointed attorney. Well, let me tell you about court-appointed attorneys. They're not trained in juvenile dependency family law. They're, basically criminal lawyers just starting out. And they're not paid very much. And plus, they have a caseload of 30 more clients. So when you do try to talk to them, they're very busy. They won't have time for you. They also won't pursue your case because they have no incentive. They're also friends of the CPS and the judge. So you want to be very careful of using a court-appointed attorney. And that's why I recommend you get a real attorney. You need one that is a juvenile family dependency lawyer, someone like Mr. Davis. And as I say, that website that's scrolling across the bottom of your screen, All you do is go to that website and book them for your time. It's https colon forward slash Candly, CLENDLY.com /apps, APPTS, VWD Bob Pace, BOBPACE. And that'll take you to this website that you can do there and accept MasterCard or Visa card for the $60. But it's going to be something that you really be well worth the spending on. So that's my rule number one. And I say fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. If you know an open heart surgery, you need to have a specialist, a doctor who's trained in that, who's gone to medical school, who's done an internship, who has mentored other doctors. That's the kind of person you're going to need for open heart surgery. The same thing goes true for the child protection system. They are very hard to work with, but I'm sure that um, now it's been off and on kind of slow. Some people are in the room. I can't tell if you're in the room or not if you don't say anything. Um, but I do encourage you to ask questions and also the direction you like me to do the podcast. I have one of several ways. I can talk about my 5 rules. I just gave you one. I can talk about who is a social worker, what they are, and so forth. And then I have a bunch of topics opened up across the stream. We can talk about the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978, or we can talk the ICPC, where you transport kids from one organization to another organization. There's the 388 motion, which forces a hearing within 30 days. And there's probably lots of other topics that you um, want to research. Another rule I want you to think about is rule number 4. You need to research a long time in the internet about CPS, the Child Protection System. What I mean by research, you need to find out all there is about your case, and you need to be location specific. Like you want to have it so that it's located pretty close to where your case is. Now, if you're in a small city like, say, Athens, Georgia, you may want to include Atlanta, Georgia. So Atlanta and Athens are your first 2 words, and then you want to have CPS because you want something related to that. You don't have to spell it out, just put CPS. And then you got to put down what in CPS you want to find info about. The dependency court, um, how they get your children back, and what kind of CPS that you have in the area that you're researching. Because that's all important. You need to study them like an enemy. You need to know your enemy. You need to how to get your kids back. And I'm so sorry that has happened to you. It's a terrible feeling when someone goes into it. I too had the same thing happen to me. I'm a family man, been married for 31 years, and I have 6 children. And in 2010, I encountered a hiccup in my career, my life. I suddenly was without a job because, not because of my performance, because we had to close the doors. And I was working in civil engineering, general contracting. And person I worked for, I brought in all this work, but we couldn't get started on the work through no fault of my own because the state of California was using those funds illegally. Even though there were public funds awarded, they were using it legally to sustain themselves because they're ready to the verge of financial collapse, just like the Detroit, Michigan, the city of Detroit, Michigan. But California was really in bad shape, and they used my $53 million worth of work to help support them because I had contracted over $53 million worth of work with the state of California to do roads and highways. Anyway, it was a very hard decision there. And I was hoping to find work, but they thought at age 60 I was too old, too much of a dinosaur. Well, that was a long time ago. That's almost 15 years ago. Back in 2010. Of course, I had to go on a tight budget, and when I did so, my in laws were the perpetrators from the laymen that called in on our family. My wife's mother, father, brother, and three sisters made our life hell for the next 5 years from 2010 to 2015. And they were alleging that we weren't feeding our kids, weren't taking them to schools, weren't have clothing for them, um, doing stupid things like that, which was far from the truth. I kept disputing and disputing it, and this went on for 5 years. Finally, they got frustrated, I guess. They got a detective that forced me to come back to my house because they were determined to see what in my house they could find I did wrong. They had no allegations except the alleged allegations from the lay people. So you got to be careful. Allegations are made by two kinds of people: professional people and lay people. Professional people usually know what to look for and how to do it because they're required by law. They've been trained about neglect and abuse in the child care system. So, with that being said, my life was miserable because I did not know it was the lay people. If I knew what I knew now, then it would never have happened. That was stupid things. Like, I even had them in my house several times to show them they had food in the house and prep areas and stuff. So they've been in my house. But, you know, in 2015, the detective cornered me to go to my house. He said I had to open the house up. Well, I disagree with that statement, but I did not know that you could deny them to enter your home. You could deny them to enter your home. So in 2015, they tricked me, and they also got the help of five firemen, uh, two code enforcement, three social workers, two uniformed policemen, and of course the detective. Why it takes that many people to investigate, I don't know. But I, opened my home. I didn't think there was anything that I should be bad of. Of course, I was unaware that my parents' belongings of over 55 years were suddenly in my home because had died. My dad had died. My mom was slowly dying. I told them I'd take care of it and find a home for all of their belongings and so forth. But I had one room, the living room, where all the furniture was stacked and all the chairs and stuff. And they just didn't think it was safe for the kids. Kept saying their boxes, they'll line up the boxes were falling you. Well, the problem being the children were taller than the boxes. So I don't know how that would happen. I don't know how that would happen. But it got worse as they were trying to find things. The code enforcement people only found two things wrong. My gate was loose and needed to be tightened, and my yard needed a haircut because I had not done the yard in a while since I lose my job. I couldn't afford the landscaper. Now, the rest of the people, like the firemen, they checked out my smoke alarm to see if it was adjusted right or worked or things. Nothing wrong there. I even had fire extinguishers by the stove, which was not necessary, but I had them around. So they checked to make sure that they're current and so forth. But the firemen couldn't find anything. And then the two uniformed policemen didn't find anything. And the detective was just taking notes. and writing down and asking me lots of questions. And I made a lot of mistakes there by talking to them, by letting them in my home. And you don't, and on top of that, they took my children that weren't in intimate danger. They took my children that weren't in intimate danger. They took them and put them in intimate danger. I just don't understand. Being in school was not intimate danger, but they took my children. They took my children, and it was sad. It was all because of my in-laws that wanted to take my children. There's so much trafficking and alienation goes on in CPS. It's against the law to alienate or against the law to do trafficking. But CPS doesn't care about your civil or constitutional rights of anybody. So they'll do anything. They'll do anything, and they'll violate your constitution. And, so they charged me because I've had boxes stacked and furniture stacked from neglect. They're saying the boxes could hurt the children. Now I don't know how they could because boxes don't fly, furniture doesn't walk. The children's bedroom were unobstructed and taken real good care of. The bedroom, the bathroom was fine. It's hard talking about my case because I lost one of my children, and that was really hard. That was really, really, really hard. But anyway, that was life, and my kids were picked up from their schools, immediately put into a foster care shelter in Orange County next to the dependency courthouses. But what was sad is that shelter was right next door to the juvenile prison. Their play yards adjoined each other, so the children were exposed to juveniles. These are people that are under the age of 18 that committed a crime. They are serving time there. Also, the play area was encompassed with beehives, and so it was really, um, really hard there too. Really, really hard. Hmm. So now my children are in the shelter. It's called the. It's like a old sort of concrete block house, and the food was terrible. There was cockroaches. Kids were overcrowded, and their idea of school was reading a book. Reading a book. So that's how my children spent the first couple of days there until we had a family friend. It's my wife's sister, mother took care of the kids, and um, they were able to take them to school of origin and so forth. Anyway, my case went on and went from 2010 to 2015. But everything that I had learned now, I wish I knew back then because it could have done difference. As I explained to you about my about the attorney, Mr. Davis. He was my attorney. It's very important that you do hire him. He has helped one of my regular roomers in here, KK Richardson from New York, from Brooklyn, New York. And she was able to get information that did help her with her case. And now the CPS organization in Brooklyn, New York is on the ropes. Also, Faye Wamaroon, Faye Manley from Richmond, Kentucky, was able to talk to the new buzzman in Kentucky, and her case has been opened. So I've had some good news report that things are helping. And, I thank Mr. Davis for helping KK. That was good. His knowledge is really great. And I strongly recommend him that you have that 30-minute Zoom meeting with him. That little ticket runs across my screen. So right now, I don't have anybody talking or any regulars asking for anything. Um, Topic wise, what I could do sometimes I've talked about is I have this core digest. It gives you CPS related uh, cases here. Let me see if I have any new ones here that we can talk about. Mm. I have several things. How can I possibly win a CPS case? How can I possibly win a CPS case? That's always a very good question. Now, um, you can, and I can honestly say the only reason why I can say that is because I didn't. If I would have known what I know now, I would have had my children. I wouldn't be uh, a metal wreck most days. I wouldn't stare at kids playing at parks. I wouldn't be a hoarder of child stuff, craft stuff. But I know what to do, and I've become an advocate for parents. Um, yes, you can fight and win CPS. You just got to really, it's that rule number 4 I told you about, is that you have to research. Knowledge is the key to success of fighting CPS. It's the key to success. Now, I know that fighting the CPS or beating the CPS, there's no fast way. It does take time. With my case, it took 3 years. If you can't afford a bulldog attorney, lawyer, then bury them in paperwork. Ask them to account for each and everything they're asking you to do beyond the obvious, like go to addiction treatment, assuming you had used. Do the mental health evaluation. Answer authentically and also behaving like the wonderful, genuine person you are. File in court every piece of paper showing the mental health evaluator says you're fine. The kids' school says you're fine. and they're doing fine. Any professionals, unbiased sources says you're good, file it with a court. Send a copy to CPS with the kid's case number on it. And every time they make an immeasurable demand, um, like Bob will demonstrate positive feelings about himself, demand that they include who's evaluating and measuring the standard. Also try to understand. Also try to get a statement from um, the teachers there of your on your daycare and your pediatrician, the mom down the street who kids has play dates with them. Get all this supportive documentation. They know them well enough. And let me see what else. You also want to stress that you want family reunification. You never want to give that up, and do not terminate your rights of medical or educational rights to your children. You have to do appeals if they try to terminate them. So I cannot emphasize how important it is because these social workers, you got to be careful of them. You got to be careful of them. Example: there's these eight female social workers that are white that worked out of Prescott, Arizona, in the Department of Children's Services. And these eight social workers decided one day to get pink T-shirts, and on the front of the T-shirts they put professional child kidnappers. That's right, professional child kidnappers. And on the back they say, "Do you know where your kids are at?" And they paraded around wearing these pink T-shirts. All eight of these women at Kmart. Um, they also did it at Costco, Target, Best Buys, all the big different department stores. And this is in 2022 in Prescott, Arizona. Well, the parents were up in arms because the message was quite clear. It was very sickening. And they were fired. They were fired in Prescott, Arizona. And so was the director was fired too. That left them with only one person. How that person is going to protect the children from neglect and abuse. You know, there is neglect and abuse that goes all the time. It's just that CPS seems to always cater towards families that are low income because they know they can't afford an attorney and that they can con them and get their children kidnapped into um, foster care. And so I'm telling you, you got to be careful out there. You got to be careful out there. So these social workers are gone, but you know it hurt that department because they're down to one person, and that one person can't help out uh, if there are children really in need of protection. You see, um, getting rid of everybody is great, but then you got rid of the bad apples. You need somebody to replace. So um, I'm sure that they got somebody already in there working for them. And so I am emphasizing you have to be careful because these social workers are tricksters. They're also very revengeful. Um, in my case, when my three children were stolen or trafficked into foster care, one of them I'll never see again. My wife, I'll never see her again, our daughter. And the reason being is that what happened, she was 12 at the time. And my wife's sister petitioned the court to adopt our three, or no, excuse me, adopt our daughter. Her and her husband wanted the daughter. And we didn't like this idea at all. And so, with that being said, they went to court, and during the proceedings, we had the social worker on the stand vouching for the integrity of my wife's sister and husband as good parents. And she was being asked by Mr. Davis, who was my attorney I had hired, what kind of parents these people were and have they ever been involved in domestic violence. And of course, the social worker said, no, they're great parents, and no, they've not been involved in domestic violence. She committed perjury because right away he had a folder in his briefcase he took out. It's about an inch thick and had at least 30 reports of domestic violence at their residence. And it was terrible. Mr. Davis showed this to her, and her face was all red because she knows she committed perjury and opened to a big lawsuit. And that just shows you the kind of integrity social workers are. But that's not where it stopped at. When she was exposed in front of all her peers in court and stuff, she wanted to revenge. And what she did is she told us parents that you'll never see your daughter again. And what she did, she coached our daughter, who was 12 at the time, to emancipate from the parents of the family. That means divorce your mother, father, brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, divorce them all, and then change your name, which she did, completely change your name, and then sealed her birth certificate and was adopted by a foster care. And being adopted that way, the foster care, the CPS worker would fill out the new birth certificate, and then she would have new parents. It was sad how the whole thing came into play. I think it's wrong. I don't think it's right or fair, but it was like, wow. And I've not seen my daughter since she was 12. And my sons still try to see her when they can. They still try to see her when they can. So I'm telling you this because I don't want you all to make the same mistake because it hurts my heart that these social workers would retaliate. And I did try to fight CPS. I tried to fight the director, and he had a Taj Mahal of an office. And it was like the Emerald City of the Wizard of Oz. And he was bad news. He was bad, bad, bad news. And it hurts to lose your daughter like that. In the state of Kentucky, they have it that when kids are formally adopted, they have a policy where they let the parents say one last goodbye, which is wrong. And they say one last goodbye, but they do. They do have this one last goodbye. And the the feeling that social workers can be that cruel and punish me, if you can imagine. One of my listeners' room went through it. Faye had to say goodbye to her daughter, and she still cries this day. I mean, it's really cruel what CPS workers can do. So you got to be careful. You got to, follow the directions, complete everything, but you got to really um, be careful because they're not to be trusted. They're not transparent. So all they want to do is make money. That's the sole reason why they take your child. In my case, my children were getting paid by the state to the county of $20,000 per child. That's $60,000 per week. Excuse me, per month. So if you had 100 families with 3 children, that would be $6 million a month. So it's $1 trillion business. Trillions of dollars are spent, and I really want you to be careful when you're dealing with CPS, or not to be trusted, and they'll build your hopes up and then take them down and shoot them down. So my attorney, Vincent Davis, got back my 2 sons, but my daughter was able to get back, and I would love to do a lawsuit, but then that's too much money to do a lawsuit because she had committed perjury, and I could have sued them. But it takes money to get money, and I don't know. It may take too much money. So that's a little bit about my case. I did get my boys back, but it's still we're still a wreck and a messed up about this CPS case. I still don't. Our daughter's 22 now, and it's been over 10 years. If I think about it, 2015 to 2020, almost 10 years. Yeah. Um, I'm getting close to the end of my show. Approximately about 4 minutes left before my time's up, and or 3 minutes. So uh, I'm here twice a day, 7 days a week to help you. On again, this is an active podcast that you can call in and talk, or you can be a guest, or just be a listener and send me text messages. But I really want to help. I want to gear the questions you want to know about. As I told you, I have a wealth of information. And one of the things I like to mention about sometimes from time to time is called the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978. It was an act made by Congress that's supposed to protect the native Indian children from abuse by CPS. You see, CPS has a habit of always trying to put them in foster care. They don't believe in the world of unification, and they certainly try to take your child away, which is really sad. But it's a hard thing to put there, and it's exciting when I hear the news of two people yesterday with the good news. K.K. Richardson out of Brooklyn, New York, and Faye Manley out of Richmond, Kentucky, who did get some help from Vincent Davis, which was good because he's the kind of man that loves to help people, and he has his own podcast. So please talk to him. That ticket down the bottom of my screen is Candly. That's where you go to book a Zoom meeting with him. It's 30 minutes for $60. 30 minutes for $60. And he gladly talk to you. Make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. Make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. Now you got to be careful, and you got to really do your research well. But you need to be always open. Do not talk to social workers. Do not let them in your home. Do not give up your children. There's only three ways they can get in your home. One, you allow them with permission, or some of your family members allow them to come in your home. Two, there's domestic violence going on and your child's in danger. They're going to come in because they need to protect the child. So, two people are fighting, or they're strangling the child, or beating a child. They're going to come in and investigate, so forth. And three, if they have a court warrant, and that's the legal documentation they get from court, and that will allow them in your home. So, with that said, I'm going to end my show. Thank you very much. God bless you all. I'll see you tonight at 7 p.m.